So if you know how to analyze the program or how to analyze the requirements which is given by the customer, then it will be easy for you to understand the things which is related to software engineering. If you have any complex problem, that should not be considered as a single unit. So instead of that, that needs to be divided into number of sub-problems or a number of sub-programs. Don't write one question from A and another one from B. So at the time you won't get the marks. Either you have to go with either A or B. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. Welcome to the very first session on the B.C.A 6th semester subject called Software Engineering. I'm Rohini T.S., Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So in our today's session, I would like to give you the brief introduction regarding the subject called Software Engineering. I just wanted to give you a brief discussion regarding this subject. That means we are going to learn about, or we will get to know regarding what is the prerequisites of this subject. For example, if I wanted to learn the software engineering subject, in order to learn that subject or in order to get to know whatever the concepts that we have in that subject, before that you must have some brief knowledge regarding some of the topics. So that is what regarding this prerequisites. Along with that, I will be discussing about the learning outcome. That means now you don't know anything regarding this software engineering. After once you learn with this subject, then what will be the benefits thing that you are going to get from this subject? That is regarding learning outcome. Along with that, I will be discussing regarding the number of units which is present in this subject. Along with that, I would like to work regarding this internals. So we will discuss about the internals. Along with that, exam pattern we'll see like what will be the marks distribution for this subject, and along with that we will see how many parts it consists of, and each part comprises of how many marks or how to answer that question that I am going to discuss in the exam pattern. So first let me get into the prerequisites of software engineering. So as we all know that software is nothing but what? It is a collection of program, and each program will going to perform some task or it will going to perform a particular task. So if it is a collection of program or a set of instruction in order to guide the system, we are going to call that as a software. So in order to learn the software engineering, how we are using that software in order to satisfy the requirements of a user. Ultimately, if you wanted to be in a market, then you have to satisfy the requirements of a user. So for that purpose, this is a process to satisfy the requirement of a customer by writing or by having this set of programs or a set of instructions. So when it comes to the prerequisites, you must have a brief knowledge regarding a scripting language. So you can go with any of the languages, but you must know the basics of a programming languages. So then it will be easy for you to analyze the requirements which were given by the programmer. Then you will be able to implement that program using any of the languages. So you must be able to understand, or you need to have a language or any of the programming language knowledge. Along with that, we are going to have a version control tool. So this version control tool is nothing but what? We are writing a program, so like set of programmers are writing a program for a same project. Their perspective will be different and their way of writing the efficient code will be different. So that we are going to have a different version of a same project. So that is what version control. That means if I consider any of the user, their perspective will going to be differs from person to person. Like that may be either efficient or not so efficient, but we are going to have a different version of writing the code. So if you know how to analyze the program or how to analyze the requirements which is given by the customer, then it will be easy for you to understand the things which is related to software engineering. Along with that, you must be able to understand regarding code editors and IDEs. So your IDE is nothing but integrated development environment, and then we must have a basic knowledge regarding the database. Like if I consider a database, it is a logically related data. So that must be arranged in a way it needs to be helpful for us in order to access or to manipulate. Like manipulation includes updation or any of the retrievals of a data. All those operation it will going to allow us to perform. So mainly it is a collection of logically related data. How we are going to do the manipulation with respect to that data which comes under this database. And also you must have a brief knowledge regarding the network. So when it comes to the network, we are going to have a we will work regarding the IP address. So if we get to know the IP address of any of the electronic devices or a machine, then it is easy to code. That is also networking things you need to understand. And then software development life cycle, in short SDLC. So if I consider any of the software, first I have to take the requirements from a customer. After taking the requirements, we have to analyze like whether is it possible to implement or not. So if not, what is the alternative things can be done. So if it is possible, then how much time it will going to require, what money it requires, that and all we have to think. After doing the analysis, it needs to be designed. So by making use of some of the designing tools and technique, it needs to be designed. Once it got finalized, then it has to be implemented with some of the programming language. Once it got implemented, then we have to check that. That is what testing is all about. We are checking whether it satisfies the requirements of a customer or not. So once the testing is over or once the testing is successful, then it needs to be deployed. So deployment in the sense what? The software whatever has been developed, that needs to be delivered and that needs to be installed in the customer place. So after that, maintenance has to takes place for a long time. However, the project is going to help us. That is regarding SDLC or software development life cycle. And also you must have a small brief regarding things with respect to the cloud computing basic. So here we are computing, we are doing some manipulation of a data which will going to be stored in a virtual memory space. That is what cloud computing is all about. So these are the prerequisites. That means you must have some brief knowledge regarding all these topics. So if you know how programming will going to work, what is the flow of a program, how to collect the requirements, how to analyze it, how to design, implement. So if you know at least a brief knowledge regarding the software, then it would be easy for you to understand the topics with respect to the software engineering. I hope you all understood. This is what prerequisites after that. So now you just imagine you have learned all the units of the software engineering. Then what are the benefits that you are going to get from this subject called software engineering? Then you must be familiarized with the concept of software engineering and its relevance. Then you will be able to understand its concept. Along with that, you are going to understanding of various methods or models for developing a software product. Because if I consider a software, that can be either product or it can be a set of program. So after learning this subject, then you will be able to understand the various methods and models which will be used in order to develop a software product. Along with that, ability to analyze the existing system to gather the requirements for the proposed system. So the software has to be flexible and we require evolution of software. It can't be static, it has to be flexible or it needs to be dynamic. So that in order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of a software, first we have to understand that what are the disadvantages it had in the previous system. Then what we are doing now, then that is what proposed system and what can be done in the future. That is what we have to understand. That will going to be helpful for us in order to understand all those flow when we able to learn this software engineering subject. Along with that, we will get the skill to design and code a software. So as I told earlier, if I am able to understand the requirements of a customer, then also I must be able to analyze their requirements based on the kind of requirements what they are asking for. So along with that, we will understand the process of software development by making use of some of the tools or by making use of some of the models and methods. We will be able to understand the process of a software development from the requirement collection to the maintenance. So that stage we will be understanding. Along with that, understand and plan the software development, then understand and implement of the coding. Along with that, for that this coding also I told you to understand at least some of the programming languages, and also we will be able to debug a software. So when we are delivering any of the software to the customer, it must be error free. I hope you all understood with respect to this learning outcome. So now we got to know what is the previous knowledge should I have in order to learn this subject. Along with that, we will be able to understand this learning outcomes. Let me move to the syllabus of this subject. When it comes to the syllabus or portions of the subject, totally you are going to have 4 units in the subject. So the first unit is what? Software process. So in the software process, we are going to learn the introduction part of a software. Along with that, we will be learning regarding the different types of models. So each model will going to have its own advantages and disadvantages. In order to overcome the disadvantages of a previous model to develop the software, then we are going to invent or we are going to evolve with another model. So that is what software process is all about. And also we will be learning regarding the software requirements. Second unit is what? Software requirements. If I wanted to satisfy the requirement of a customer, first I have to take the requirements from a customer. Then we have to analyze like what is their need. So what they are asking for. How can I make more efficient requirement? How can I implement their requirement? That is what this software requirement is all about. That we are going to learn in the unit 2. After that, once I got the requirement, then I have to analyze it, right? Like what they are asking for. If I didn't understand the requirements of a customer, then I wouldn't be able to implement or to design. So for that, first you have to understand the requirement, then it will be easy for us to design. Once it got designed, then it will be easy to do the coding. So that means we are implementing that designing into its working procedure. So with the help of some of the programming languages, we are going to do the coding. That is also considered as what? Implementation. So now I implemented or coding has been done. Now we have to test that, like whether it is satisfying the requirements of a customer or not. So if yes, then how it can be improvised. So if not, what are the alternative things that I can go with? That is what? Validation and verification. That comes in the 4th unit with respect to testing and project management. So once the project has been deployed to the user, then that needs to be maintained throughout the lifetime of a software. So this is what completely you are going to learn from your software engineering. First, I will get to know regarding what are the models we have in order to do the software or in order to improve the efficiency of a development of a software. Then what are the phases we all come up with. And each phase will going to be the 2nd, 3rd as well as the 4th unit in this subject. So let me get into the next slide, that is with respect to the unit 1. So when it comes to the unit 1, that is software processes. As I told, in this software processes, we will be understand regarding software engineering introduction. Along with that, we will be knowing regarding what are the characteristics we have in the software and how it will going to be implemented along with its paradigm. Then, and also we will be learning regarding the life cycle model. So that includes waterfall model, incremental model, spiral model, prototyping as well as the object oriented model. So each model will be used in order to develop the software, and each product or each model will going to have its own advantages as well as disadvantages. That is what we are going to learn from this topic. Along with that, we have a software engineering computer based system, verification, validation. So it's like a testing and checking, and also life cycle process, development process, and then system engineering hierarchy. That is the complete portion regarding the unit 1. So mainly, as I told, we will be mainly concentrating on this life cycle model or a software life cycle model. So after that, we have to take the requirements from a user. That will be in the unit 2. So that software requirements. So when it comes to the software requirements, so being in the management team or being a manager, they have to analyze the requirements of a customer. Like if you wanted to be a top of a market, then you have to satisfy the requirements of a customer, what they require on that particular moment. So that is the usage or that is the role of a manager. So So in order to do the management of a software in an efficient manner, then it is necessary to have a role of management in software development. How management will going to help in order to develop any of the software. Along with that, we will be learning regarding the role of matrices and measurement. When it comes to the matrices, that can be related to a time constraint or a money or a monetary constraint, like what much of time, how much of time we require in order to develop this software, and how much money it will going to cost, what are the set of rules and regulation that I wanted to take, what kind of input we are taking. So all those comes under this role of matrices as well as the measurement. And also we have to analyze the problem. After collecting of a requirement, it needs to be analyzed, then requirement specification. So if I got to know, for example, if I wanted to prepare any of the food, I must understand or I must know what are the ingredients that I require in order to prepare this food. In the same way, if you wanted to develop any of the software, at the time it is mandatory to understand the requirement, whatever they are specified from the customer. That is what requirement specification. After that, we are going to do the validation matrices, monitoring and control. So after collecting all those requirement needs to be analyzed, then we have to check whether they have specified all the requirements, then validation needs to be takes place. After that, we have monitoring and control. When it comes to the software prototyping in the software process and rapid prototyping, we are going to develop the system or a software in a fast manner. So here, when it comes to the prototyping, that is the dummy model. It is not exactly the real one. We are just implementing it like a virtual one. So if it is okay or if it is accepted by the customer, then it will going to be developed in the fast manner. Along with that, we will going to have a user interface prototyping, then software document. So documentation is very important, because if I wanted to do the manipulation regarding any of the software, if you wanted to add some of the external content or any other thing needs to be changed, then developing and maintaining of that documents will going to place a very important role. Along with that, analysis and modeling, so that includes data, functional and behavioral models. So in that we have a structured analysis as well as the data dictionary. So these are the content of our second unit in the software engineering. Let me move to the unit 3, that is with respect to the design concepts and coding. So now I got to know regarding the process or life cycle models, what and all I have. After knowing the advantages of disadvantages of each kind of model, now I will be able to give the requirements, what and all required to develop the software. So after the analysis of all those requirements, by making use of some of the tools and technique, we are going to do the designing. So that we will be learning in the unit 3. So this includes the design concepts as well as the coding. Coding in the sense what we are just implementing that design into some workable models. That is what coding. So here also we are going to learn about the system design and problem partition. So main thing you have to understand one thing. If you have any complex problem, that should not be considered as a single unit. So instead of that, that needs to be divided into number of sub-problems or a number of sub-programs. And each problem needs to be divided into sub-problem or a sub-program. And after that, we have to consider sub-programs or a problem individually. So getting the answer for individual modules will be easier than getting the solution for complex tasks. So partitioning of that problem is going to place a very important role. And also we have a abstraction. So we all know how to use washing machine, how to use refrigerator, but do we really bother how it is working internally? Somehow no, right? That means abstraction, it is just giving the essential features to the customer by hiding all the background details. So that is called as what? Abstraction. And also we have different approaches for here, that includes top down as well as the bottom up design. And also we have a structured approach, functional versus object oriented. We are just making a comparison with all the types of designing tools or methods we have in the software engineering. Along with that, design specification, verification along with the matrices. And also when it comes to the coding, so this coding includes top down as well as the bottom up. So if you consider object oriented programming, all those are the bottom up approach. So if you consider the C programming, that is top down approach. We are going to solve, or we are going to divide a complex task into number of subtasks. So when it comes to the bottom up approach, already solution is present or solution is available as a modules. Then I will pick all those solution to satisfy the requirements of my problem. That is what bottom up. And also we have a structured programming. Then information hiding. As I told, when it comes to the information hiding, it's somehow like abstraction. So it's just giving, or it is just suppressing the confidential information from the user. They should not know how they are implementing. They just needs to be bothered about how to get the benefit out of that software. That is what regarding information hiding, to improve the confidentiality of a data. And also we have a programming style, internal documentation, verification matrices, and monitoring and control. So these are the content of our unit 3 of software engineering. We'll see about the unit 4. So when it comes to the unit 4, it's all about regarding testing and project management. So these many contents we have in the unit 4. So after the implementation or coding of that designed requirement which is given by the user, it needs to be tested. So it needs to be validated whether it is satisfying the requirements of a customer or not, right? So that is regarding testing. So if the testing got failed, then it needs to be revise the requirements of a user. So here taxonomy of a software testing, and also we will be learning with the levels that include test activities, types of software test. So in that we have a black box testing and testing boundary condition, functional testing, structural testing, and also we have a levels of testing that includes structural testing, test plan, test cases specification. Then we have a reliability assessment. Then when it comes to the testing, integration testing, validation testing, system testing, as well as the debugging. So we have a different levels of testing, and each testing will going to minimize the at most error, right? So if it is error in your things which is happening in the software, that will be inconsistent. If it is inconsistent, then it will not going to reach out the requirements of a customer. So we have to do the debugging, checking and correcting of all those error which is present in the software process, that needs to be minimized or should be nullified. So that is what in the first half of the unit 4. Along with that, we have a software project management. Maintenance of that software for a longer time is necessary in order to uphold or in order to improve the efficiency of a software. So that it also includes the cost estimation. If you just take on the example of refrigerator or washing machine or any of the electronic gadgets. So after purchasing all those things, it is necessary to maintain that in an efficient manner. So after that purchasing of that, how much cost it will going to be takes place in order to do the maintenance. That is what cost estimation. And project scheduling, staffing, software configuration management, quality assurance. So you have to have a QA, that is quality assurance. Whatever the software which will going to be developed and which is will be delivered to the user as a product, it needs to be assured with a good quality. So that measures and measurements, and also we have a software complexity measures with respect to the size measure, the number of lines or a number of codes it requires in order to implement that project, and also data on logic structure measures, information flow measure, and also we have a software cost estimation. So for that we are going to have this COCOMO model. So this is important. Along with that, we have a Delphi method and then software maintenance at last. So this is your complete portions of your software engineering which we have as per the University of Mysore. I hope I have given the brief knowledge regarding all the units what you have in your software engineering. So now let me move to the next slide, that too with respect to the internals. So as we all know that internals will going to be in your college level, and we will be having 3 internals, and each internals will going to carry 20 marks, and based on the rules and regulation of a Mysuru University, your internals marks will going to be finalized. So totally your exam or this paper is for 100 marks. So 20 marks will be for internals and another 80 marks will be your examination, right? So this is regarding internals. So now we'll see about the exam pattern. Who loves to get 80 in the software engineering? You all will going to get 80 on 80. So if you work on that, right? So we'll see the pattern here. Totally it comprises of two parts. One is part A and another one is part B. So when it comes to the part A, these are all of 2 marks question. So part A, in that you are going to get 12 question and each of are for 2 marks. So that out of 12 question, you have to answer any 10. So 10 into 2 will be 20 marks. So first part A will be for 20 marks and we are left out with part B, that is another 60 marks, right? So when it comes to the part B, so totally you will be having 4 questions in the part B and each question will going to carry 15 marks. So that 15 into 4 will be 60 marks. So then what is the marks distribution of each questions? So if you consider the first question in the part B, it will going to have 2 questions like A and B. So when it comes to the A, it comprises of 1 and 2 or 1 and 2 in the B. So how we are supposed to answer for this kind of question? Either you have to choose either A or B. So you should not choose one question from A and another one from B. At the time you won't get the marks. So if you wanted to write both the questions from the part A or part B, you have to choose it completely. So if you are going with part A or if you are going with A in the first question of 15 marks, at that time whatever the sub questions that we have in the A, that option needs to be written completely. Okay. So don't write one question from A and another one from B. So at the time you won't get the marks. Either you have to go with either A or B. So same thing has to be takes place for all the remaining other 3. Okay. So part A 20 marks and part B will be for 60 marks and that marks distribution can be like 8 plus 7 or together it will be for 15 or it can be 9 plus 6. So the marks distribution will going to be varies based on the type of question what they are going to ask. So totally it will be for 18 marks. Comprises of 2 parts. One is part A and another one is part B. Part A 20 marks and part B will be for 60 marks. So in the part A, 12 questions will be there. Out of that you have to answer any 10 and part B comprises of 4 questions and each question will going to have 2 questions or a 2 sub question and each 2 sub questions will going to have another sub question. So you have to choose either A or B. So based on that you have to answer all the 4 in order to get 80 on 80 in the subject called software engineering. So we all got to know regarding internals as well as the marks distribution of a question pattern. So now we'll see about the important textbook or a reference textbook for this subject. So here we have listed out the subject textbook of this software engineering. So most of the time we will prefer this Roger S. Pressman textbook which is of the 5th edition, so that you also can refer. So another 3 textbook is also listed here. So if you wish to, you can go with any of the textbook. So usually we all prefer the first textbook here. I hope you all understood and you got the brief knowledge regarding the subject is all about. Let me meet you in the first session of first unit. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.